Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of the Bumanlag Project, coming to you live from Amhertsburg, Ontario, from the Little Heart Studios. My name is Bumanlag. We are broadcasting on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter today. And don't forget, we've got a couple of ways that you can join us after the fact if you are listening or watching to us after episode 4. Hard to believe that we are 4 episodes into this video podcast, whatever you want to call it. But regardless, it is something for the people, and it's about putting the good before the news. So I'm happy to have you along for the ride. Don't forget, we are doing a couple of cool things with the show. We are asking you to participate in the show. You can comment, share, and like away, and we will involve you with our guest, who I will bring in just a few moments. Just a great guy, and we've got a lot of ground to cover, and some very topical ground to cover this evening on the Bumanlag Project. Before we get to that, some housekeeping. Again, if you are looking to get a hold of some really cool guests, we got them. And past episodes are on Spotify and YouTube as well. You can search for me on YouTube and subscribe to my channel, because we put those past episodes up within hours of the show, debuting live on social media. Also, last week we had an awesome chat with Ian and Chantel from Fight Like Mason. We were first time live on Twitter and LinkedIn, working on Instagram as we speak. And you can catch that rebroadcast again on our YouTube channel and also on Spotify. And, a lot of people have been saying over the last little bit, Arms, is this a weekly show? How often are you going to be doing this? Right now, I'm going to be doing it once a week for the Windsor Essex area, really for anybody who's viewing the show on social media. However, next week, you get a 2-for-1, where you have a very special edition of the show. And I can't wait to show you what it's about. Coming up on Tuesday, we are going to talk about YQG coming together for another miracle. It was a hugely successful event last year. It's back, the June 27th Miracle, and we'll be talking to a number of the people organizing this big event on Tuesday evening for a special edition of the Bumanlag Project live right here on social media. So can't wait to have you along for the ride on that. So our guest this evening is just a fantastic guy. I've known him for a number of years, and when I bring guests on my show, they always have some really great stories to tell. Love to chat with them about the connection that we share. And, like so many people, I have truly missed going to the gym. My wife and I are proud members of Movati Athletic Windsor in Amhertsburg. On a daily basis, I drive my location here in town in Amhertsburg, and I hope it one day is going to open again to the public. My guest and his team have been across the province, really around the country. They've done a world-class job at hosting over 1.1 million safe workouts since reopening with zero community outbreak. He's been advocating that the fitness industry should be a part of the solution to help get Ontarians through this pandemic, impacting both the physical and mental health of our communities through working out. He's been looking forward to getting his members back into the clubs and helping people on their wellness journey, putting his team back to work right across Ontario. And his leadership has been instrumental for an organization that reaches right across Canada. He's involved with so many different cool groups, amazing groups like the Miracle League here in Amhertsburg. A family man, deep roots in Windsor Essex, and somebody I look forward to saying, hey, I look up to you and thank you for joining to the show. Excited to welcome CEO of Movati Athletic, Chuck Kelly, to the Bumanlag Project, who is joining us live. Chuck, good evening to you, sir. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Arms. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate your time.
Oh, I appreciate your time. I know how busy you are and how, let's just say, crazy the last year and a few months have been. I want to talk about COVID. I want to talk about Movati Athletic, get into some of the roots of the organization, which to me, becoming a member over the last couple of years, I've just been in awe of the wide reach of Movati and how it reaches really across Canada. But first of all, I got to say, how have you been holding up? How are things going? I mean, last time I chatted with you was before this last lockdown. I popped by the Amhertsburg Club and you and I had a coffee together. But how are things been going for you?
Well, Arms, it's been a very difficult year in our industry. Our sector has been impacted probably more than almost any other business outside of probably the cruise ship industry. And so it has been difficult. I go back to the beginning of the pandemic. Last March 17th, I think, was the date we shut down. And no one really knew a lot about the pandemic or the transmissibility of COVID-19. And we were in lockdown till I believe it was the third week of July. and then we got our opportunity because the case counts went down, and the communities in our province allowed us to reopen. During that phase of us reopening, with the measures we put in place, the training that we had for our staff, the equipment we had purchased, and all of the intensive work that went in to make sure we could open safely. First, arms for our team. We wouldn't have opened our doors if we didn't think we could keep our team safe.
Sure.
Then our teams can keep our members safe, and ultimately, if we're keeping our members safe, we're keeping our community safe. So after we got the opportunity to open, as you mentioned, we did get the chance to host north of 1.1 million workouts from Thunder Bay to Amhertsburg across Ontario. During that time, we were not made aware by any health unit that we operated within of any community outbreak that was tied to our health club. I think that's, from my standpoint, that's what I was most proud of during this, was the great work of the team, and how proud I was that we did keep everyone safe. So what's difficult now is, at the beginning of the pandemic, you couldn't say with certainty, because there was no data to be seen whether you could operate a health club safely. But because we did, and not just Movati, others in our industry performed admirably too. But that's the frustrating part now. No one wants to listen, Arms. It doesn't matter what door we beat on. I personally spoke to Doug Ford on several occasions. I've spoken to ministers of health. I've spoken to reps in their office, and the most frustrating part is they'll listen, but they're not listening, and they're not asking the right questions. They're not asking for our data. They're hearing us out, but at the end of the day, no one, when they go to make the regulations for safe reopenings, no one to date, to my knowledge, has contacted anybody in the fitness industry. And I've had many discussions from Good Life to Lifetime to Crunch to Anytime, and no one that we know of has been brought to the table to have discussions on how we can help better interpret what they believe is needed to keep people safe. So because we operate gyms and we know how they're built, if they tell us what the problem is, I think we're best suited to give them some guidance on how to build safe guidelines. Sorry for my, but
no, I think it's important that we talk about this, and this is why the platform I wanted to bring you on, because this is top of mind for a lot of folks, including my wife, who's watching the live stream. She's saying, I'm very much looking forward to returning when it's safe enough to open up the gyms, and she missed it. When you and I had the coffee in April, and we were chatting and talking to some of the staff at the front desk at the Amhertsburg location too, it's like, we've seen, you've heard and you've seen the stories that have come out in the media about the mental health implications of this pandemic for the general population, and for folks who really rely on the physical activity, myself included, to make them feel good, right? To as a baseline for their overall well-being. To me, when you and I were talking, I know all the different things that you've put in place, from a top level down from Movati for your staff, based on those ever-changing public health guidelines. I mean, that in itself was like a full-time job, was it not, Chuck? I mean, just making sure that you were able to make sure the gyms were safe when you were able to open, and making sure that the staff were up to date on the latest guidelines.
Yeah. So when the regulations would come out, and they were often, we used to call them Doug Ford Fridays, or we had our own cute little names for they came out often with less than, well, in the beginning, they'd usually tell you Friday, and the change would implement Monday. And then as time went on, the announcement usually came Thursday, and the change would be Friday. So it didn't give you a lot of time to pivot. So yes, our teams would take them, interpret them, and then have to go into the clubs, build the material for safe distancing, the markings on the floor, the training for the staff. At Movati, we started installing in our lunchrooms for the teams. We started installing UV light and filtration systems.
Wow.
To make sure that we could keep our team safe. I mean, I'll use just the lunchroom. There were protocols on how many people could be on lunch. We opened up our other areas in the club for them to have a nice, safe place to sit and relax while they were on break. On top of our units, like the club you see in Windsor has 25 heating and cooling units on the roof. We installed MERV 13 filters. I believe I could be misquoting, but there's about 150 filters in those.
Wow.
And so what we did internally was take our best knowledge from what they were saying, that it was aerosolized, the virus, and said, how can we mitigate this? And we sat down with our teams, from our building maintenance teams to our operational teams who bring out the excellence. And we said, look, here's the problem. How can we keep everybody as safe as we think possible? So at the time, they were recommending 6 feet distancing. We went to 9 meters in our studios, or not 9 meters, 9 feet, 3 meters. We also we were the first in the fitness industry in Ontario to go to mandatory mask when you were in the club. So, that was not popular. I can tell you that the team took a lot of I would call undue stress, because at that time, and I don't know if you remember, Arms, but you could say that you could be exempt from wearing a mask. Well,
Yes.
I would tell you that what was spreading faster than COVID at that time was people not wanting to wear their masks. So we just had to make the decision to go mandatory masks for the safety of our teams and for our members. So after we implemented that, when we went through that first 2 weeks of that, it started to smooth out, and people understood, look, we're just trying to keep everyone safe, and we're trying to keep our doors open so that our teams can remain doing what they love to do, taking care of our members. So, a lot of what gets lost and frustrates me in this, Arms, personally, is, and I think you and I have talked about this, if you're sitting at home watching TV and you're allowed to work from home, you have the ability, or we'll say the good fortune, to have your job be portable and you're working out of your house. But there's many people who have been displaced, like they're not working, and that noise, when I hear people say that we should remain locked down another till it's safe. Well, I believe it's safe. I wouldn't want to open if it wasn't safe, but there is many people out there who have lost their employment. So it's easy to say, yeah, we can stay home another 3 months. Maybe if you work for the city and you're allowed to work from home and you haven't had any economic impact in your life, it's easier to have that decision. But this really has impacted a lot of people in different industries, from service to frontline workers in other industries. But I'll use fitness as an example. Well, I mean, I'd love to be able to keep all my team working all the time, but when you're at zero revenue, it is just not possible. And many of the subsidies that were out there, well, first of all, I'll use Movati. We didn't fit into. So the rent subsidy, we were too small to get rent subsidy. Or sorry, we were too big, too large a company to get the rent subsidies.
Yep.
And then they had a LEAF program, which was a government loan program, but we were too small to qualify for that. So we fell in between. And at Movati, I'll use the number, it doesn't really matter. Our rent per month is $1.8 million across our units. And of that rent, many people think, you're paying your landlord rent. Half of it went to the municipalities in our case. So just over 800,000 was municipal taxes.
Wow.
And to date, we've received zero relief from any municipality. There was a deferral of a month or two in London that was allowed originally. But, and I'm not saying this to be, to ask for empathy or anything. It's just a fact. That's why businesses are suffering. And when you want them to stay closed and it's for the good, why am I being charged taxes? And Arms, if the city wouldn't allow 50 people into their homes for a duration of time and they wanted them to pay taxes, would they be happy about it, or would they probably be at City Hall with a pitchfork,
Sure.
look, complaining and in outrage? So when I say this, and again, I'm frustrated that I'm handing a check to cities to this province that I live in, and they won't even answer the phone or ask our opinion of why we should be open. So when it's frustrating, Arms. Like, it's frustrating to see people that I've known for 20 years that have worked with me, alongside me,
Sure.
and I can't answer their question. Do you know when we're going to get back? Do you know when do you know, is there any rules out there? Have you heard anything? And it's just extremely frustrating. So, like, as a business person and just as a friend, like, many of these people are my friends, Arms. Like, I've attended their weddings. I've watched them get married, have kids, their families grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is frustrating. So bear with me
Because
if I get animated.
no, and this is what the platform is, Chuck. It's a chance for folks right across the spectrum to tell us their story, and we can dive a little bit deeper. And that's why I wanted to bring you on as soon as I launched the show, because I mean, you're a local guy. You're an Amhertsburg guy like myself. Windsor Essex proud. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, because I think the story of Movati is just phenomenal. Carrie and I, as we became members and started to learn about, I guess, the family atmosphere that Movati has really perpetuated over the years. We'll get to that in the next little bit, but I want to keep with this thread here about you as a CEO, you somebody working alongside your staff through this, and then you start to you have to close because the guidelines come down and it's not safe to operate, and then you want to protect your staff, but at the same token, you want to make sure that you're able to keep them on the payroll. But then that becomes a double-edged sword, does it not? Because at some point we're going to have to reopen. At some point things are going to get back to normal, and it's like these people have to have some sort of thread coming in. So it's like, how long can you keep them on quote unquote retainer, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So, and without knowing the length of it, and I'm not professing that it was an easy job for the government. Like this, no one had a playbook, including us, the government, for a pandemic, unfortunately. So it has been difficult, and we've been trying to make sure that we keep enough pieces. But along the way, Arms, many people, and for valid reasons, I guess, they've decided to look to other industries because maybe it's a little more stable in their mind. Maybe it's just the uncertainty is I think what's the most damaging. Not knowing, like today, Arms, they've said we might open in August, but there's no guidelines yet for fitness. Retail or non-essential retail knows their percentages that they're going to be allowed, but nobody will step forward and speak to that. So that uncertainty has been so damaging on our sector, like our industry, that many people have decided to, take their talents to another area. And for that, it will take time for this industry to build itself back.
Yeah, and get to a point too, right, where you're able to build back in a way that you can continue with the training that you've put into these people, right? The training, the leadership style, the it's not corporate branding. It's the ideology, right? The Movati ideology. You want to have that same kind of type of person that's really knows what the company's about and what the expectations are, because then you'll be able to deliver that service. But again, that's hard when people are living from paycheck to paycheck, right? And they're trying to make things happen.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly difficult, and we're fortunate to have so many great people on our team,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to get them back, and I want to get them back as quickly as possible, safely. I do want to reiterate that, safely too, but to get them back to work so that they can do what they love to do, which is help people. Right? At the end of the day, I've always liked to say that maybe when you come to Movati, it's your 2 hours out of your stressful life, or your hour, and it's your downtime, your you time,
Sure.
and it's your place to unwind. So, I want to, and like you mentioned, for mental health reasons, as much as physical health, because they're combined. People getting back to some normalcy would be, incredibly helpful. I'll use to 20%, they'll give or take, will use a health club or some form of fitness arms in a community. That's what the statistics will tell you. And to those 20%, it's incredibly important. One of our difficulties is the other 80%, it's not important. So when they say health clubs are closed, they're not outraged, right? So, unfortunately, politicians, the old saying, whatever way the wind's blowing, the flag will go. Like, that's one of our difficulties and challenges that we're trying to overcome.
And I want to get to this collaboration, because it's like you had said again, Chuck, that this is really a collaboration of fitness organizations across Ontario coming together. And I want to talk about this initiative that is obviously key and why we're talking tonight. So we'll get to that in the next couple of minutes. But before we get to that, I just want to show folks, props to your team, because again, working in ever-changing guidelines. There's, when you guys were open, these are some shots here from the Amhertsburg location. You got to be proud of your team. You got to be proud of the people, coming in and making a commitment to their physical health, right, Chuck? I mean, it must make you feel good to see folks continuing to put their physical well-being at the top of their list of things to accomplish on a daily basis.
Yeah, arms. I mean, I know you know a bit about me. I've been fortunate throughout my life. I've been in healthcare. I was a paramedic for a lot of years in Windsor, and we opened a health club, and I got into that business, and I've always been in the health business. But since we opened the gym, I don't feel I've worked any day. I just enjoy what I do. Although the last year has been incredibly difficult for a number of reasons, mostly because I want to get my team back. And I want us to be open, and I want us to be heard. More than anything, arms, we've proven we can operate safely, and we're just looking for somebody to listen and let us show them the evidence. So we got together, which was highly unusual, arms, like in our industry.
Sure.
Like I had weekly calls with the Good Life, Lifetime Fitness, which is a big chain. They have Toronto clubs, Crunch, Orange Theory, which is a large chain of studios. And we got together and we put aside our normal like business differences, and we were looking out for our industry. And I honestly, I'd never really. It was a great opportunity for us to put our industry forward, and we united and created the Fitness Industry of Ontario, which there had already been a Fitness Industry of Canada, but they created a branch for each province. And so we took that initiative to start a campaign, and maybe you saw some of it, maybe you didn't. We did some op-eds and we did some media promotions to get Ontario moving again. And it's made some noise. We've got some meetings. I have a meeting next week with the Minister of Sport and Fitness. So, and we've met with other ministries. So we're hoping that they hear us and they listen to our advice. Like, again, we're not going there telling them we should be open. We're going there saying, hey, look, we have data. We just want to share it with you. We want to be able to show you how many visits. And it's not my data, but if you were to pull us and those big chains together, you're talking about over 15 million visits in Ontario without an outbreak. So it's not, anecdotal. It's significant data. And we just keep getting thrown in with, if you break down all the data arms that the government has put out, I think it created to 3% came from what they deemed to be the fitness sector, which included, hockey teams, soccer teams, city-run complexes, right? But I'm not sure about you, Arms. But did you play hockey, or have you ever been in a hockey dressing room?
You know what? When I used to work with the Spits when I was at
Yes.
CKLW, so Beller and I used to go. Yeah, often I would help out Steve when he was interviewing them. I am like the least graceful. I've got three left feet when I skate. I'm not a
Well,
good
the only
skater.
reason I say it, Arms, is like if you've ever been in a hockey dressing room, if anybody thinks there's good ventilation in there,
Oh
like
well, yeah,
that's why I get frustrated. We got lumped in with things that we shouldn't have been lumped in with, right? Like categorized.
yep,
Like nothing against them, but they should be in their own category, and we should have our own category, right? Because we're large enough. So our whole initiative is to get a voice at the table for
sure.
the industry.
Yeah, because especially I think when collaboratively, I mean, at the end of the day, your competition with the other gyms and fitness organizations, right? But you're all sharing a common issue right now, right across the board. So when you're able to collaborate and then go to the government and say, "Hey, wait a second, we'd like a seat at the table so we can propose what we've been doing from our spectrum." Right? Because if we see the people come in, what we've been doing collectively as an industry, I think that just makes sense. So if you're watching the show, you're listening to this after the rebroadcast, Chuck Kelly, CEO of Movati Athletic, is my welcome guest today. He's a good friend of mine. We are talking about a number of things to do with Movati Athletic, specifically the pandemic, the website that, in terms of the petition and some information there for you to find out is getmovingagain.ca. The link is up on the live feed now. Essentially, it's about fitness club restrictions are not working out, and it's to support a safe and responsible reopening plan for Ontario fitness clubs, needing more access to more, not less, physical activity. There's so many people I know, Carrie, my wife, and I talk to who are, by no means are we quote unquote gym rats. I mean, I used to come into the Amhertsburg location, I'd do the treadmill, I'd hit the weights for a bit, I'd have a quick smoothie, and then, talk to some of the staff on my way. But, for some people, including some of my friends here locally in town, they're going to Movati, sometimes even twice a day. And these people are quote unquote gym rats. So, I mean, for them, this has been a huge shift, among other people too. So it's about getting people back to the gym, and are you hoping to get more people, obviously, to sign this and to support Let's Get Moving? Because this would, they say the power is in the people to sort of ring those bells at a provincial level to say, hey, wait a second, this is what the people want.
For sure, Arms. I think we're approaching 15,000 on the petition, but the more that sign it, the more politicians will move. So as I've said before, I'm not trying to be derogatory at all, but they do move to public pressure sometimes, and we're not asking for anything that is not safe and that we haven't proven it can be done safely. There's inherent risk in everything we do, but we believe we have data that more than convincingly shows that the steps, now they were partly our steps, Arms, and they were partly guidelines from the government. Some we enhanced, some we listened to all of them, but some we enhanced, and they worked. So, if we are allowed to be open and operate, I think, there's always a financial in, but there's so much, to your point, Arms, about the gym rats and our great members who just want to be back. They want normalcy in their life. They're cautious. They were wiping their hands. They were wearing masks. They were working out. They were keeping their distance, and their mental health, like their outlook, was more positive. And when you lock people up with no real goalposts, Arm, like there's no goalposts. Whenever we got shut down, it wasn't, well, when this happens, you can open. It's even right now. Well,
Yeah.
what are the goalposts? Like, and if you don't want to show the goalposts, people struggle with that because they don't know what they're aiming at or what the goal is. So, I sat and watched Manitoba come out with their guidelines today. I think it was 4, 3, 2, 1. It was catchy, but they actually, threw out there, these are the things that have to happen, and here's the dates, right? And that, I think, has been missing a bit in Ontario. And I'm not here to chastise them. I'm only here to advocate for the industry, and obviously history can go back and see a lot of things that could be done differently during this pandemic, and it will probably will over and over be dissected. But from my standpoint is, let's get people moving safely. Let's get some normalcy. If it's wearing masks, it's wearing masks till we can stage out of this. But complete lockdown does not, I believe, really benefit in anyone in the long run, because Arms, you live in Amhertsburg. I don't know that there's been rules here other than you can't go in the store and the gyms, like some shopping areas, because I still see people, living, which is I'm excited for. I mean, that's what we're asking for, to get back to life.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Chuck, because I wanted to cite this particular statistic from the CMHA from March 2021. They say 80% of Ontarians now believe we're going to be in a serious mental health crisis post-pandemic. Fitness facilities are a part of that healthcare solution. That's been documented for a number of years, right? Getting people moving, getting people to actually be involved, and finding whether you're quote unquote a gym rat or you're just somebody who likes, for me, it's like I like to get on the elliptical when I have the energy to do it, or if it's on the treadmill, it's about being part of that solution. And quite a few people commenting on our live feed today. We appreciate that. Try to get to many comments as we can, as we're talking with Chuck Kelly, who's our CEO of Movati Athletic, my guest on the show today. Jeff from Snapped Windsor, great guy, says we all know that physical activity is paramount to mental health, so keep advocating. So there are quite a few people that agree with you as well, Chuck. So again, if you're tuning into the show or you are watching the live stream, that particular petition and more is at getmovingagain.ca. You can find out more, and we'll post a link in the feed after the show is done. Just switching gears here a little bit, I wanted to get into certainly our connection. Obviously, knowing you, considering you a friend, even a mentor in some retrospects because of your leadership style at Movati, and what was once called Total Fitness. To do a bit of a throwback here, for folks who aren't familiar with Movati, they've got a number of locations right across Canada, with a couple of openings on the horizon too. But to bring this up, I mean, this kind of brings back memories too, right, Chuck? I mean, this was humble beginnings here in YQG. This was Total Fitness way back when.
Yeah, so the clubs were actually started in Windsor. They were called Total Fitness, and the original partner who had the first one, his name was, and many people know him, Alan Quinnell. Great guy, partner of mine for years. And he started the first club on Cabana and Dougal, and then it expanded out from there. We later changed our name to the Athletic Club because of Bally. I'm dating myself here, but Bally's was called Bally's Total Fitness.
Sure.
It was called Bally's Vic Tanny originally, and they changed their name to Bally's Total Fitness. So our team had been advised to change our name if we left the Windsor area, because we didn't do national marketing. Long story short, we changed our name to the Athletic Club. We cruised along with that for many, many years until we got to Ottawa, and then there was a legal dispute, and we came up and changed our name to Movati Athletic. And that would have been, I think it's 7 years ago now. So same company though, but we are proud. We're extremely proud. We're from Windsor, and I shared this with Arms. A lot of times I'll be in a city, we're opening a club, and our new clubs are very great buildings too, along with the people. So, and they'll say, well, where'd this start? Did it start in Toronto, or are you guys from the West Coast? No, we're from Windsor. And
YQG. Yeah.
And they don't get like a disrespectful look, but they get a puzzled look, like when they look at you. And then like, that's where it started. We were scrappy, and we started in Windsor, and we moved our product out from there. So
yeah, which is incredible to me. Like when I was working at A-Channel CTV last 10 years, we were right across the shop on our original location from you guys, right at the Windsor Star building now. Yeah. And it kind of blew my mind as you and I got to know each other, became friends, and I got to learn a little bit more about the history of Movati, about how rooted it was in Windsor. And I'm thinking, man, like you've got locations right across the country, and they're nice, like they're nice locations. Like we can talk about the Windsor location too, because I think that's a key point as well. I mean, what a beautiful facility on just near Devonshire Mall there as well. But I mean, it really is about that experience, right? And that's where I think you start to listen to the members and you start to get that feedback on what they want and what they're looking for in a club.
Yeah. So all our clubs, I have a unique. We called it First Six. They were retrofit buildings, the original six in true Canadian style, right? So, but they all have their own unique charm, like Amhertsburg, Kingsville, London, Brantford, Thunder Bay were the original six. Until we got far enough along that we took our learnings and built our own building, like from scratch. So you could have the ceiling height you wanted. You could put as many showers as you wanted in. It just lent to a better flow in the building. But I do want to emphasize the building just caught up to our team, because long before we could build those big buildings that with the high touch point, we'll call it, like in Windsor,
Sure.
It was because we had amazing teammates who again delivered an exceptional experience over and over again. And you and I had talked about that. That was my biggest learning when I got into business. First, I thought you had to take care of the customer. Like I really, and you do, but you as one person can only have so many touch points. Mm-hmm. So then you realize it's about your team. And then how does your team succeed? Well, there's training, there's getting them the equipment they need. It's the hiring and making sure that your goals or your culture is being lived up to, like your expectations. And then, I've been fortunate to be surrounded by like so many amazing people, right? That, I couldn't even begin to name them all, but there's so many. And they've so many from this area because our roots are here in the company. So Movati was, before the pandemic, we were well in excess of 100,000 members in Ontario and Canada.
Wow.
And we had about 2,200 employees, like team members. And we were the second largest gym operator in Canada. I would, without being able to, I would say for sure. We were the largest premium fitness operator for sure in Canada. And our premium stands with our building and our people.
Yeah, when you talk about that sort of relationship that you have with your people, your staff, the people who make the Movati experience happen on a day-to-day basis. Like I've seen it myself in the Amhertsburg location, right? I mean, I would be walking in there, like at 5 a.m, like just 5, and I'm like half dead. Like, and then Carrie always gives me crap because she's like, "You're gonna drive into Movati looking like that." I've got like bedhead, and I'm like, no one cares. Like I'm there to sweat. It's fine, but I'm always greeted with a very nice hello. How are you? How are things? Got to know some of the staff. We kind of do the chit chat, but that sort of leadership style, that kind of ownership, that entrepreneurship, comes from the top down, right? You've got to make sure that those expectations, I would assume, Chuck, are put up from a leadership perspective, but then empowering your people to do the job and do it well because they want to do the job. They want to do it well. They want to represent what Movati is.
So that you're correct. So when I spoke of you had to train people, well, you also had to trust them too, right? So part of many people as they're growing in management, they at the beginning they're used to doing everything themselves, so they tend to lean towards micromanaging, I think is a phrase people can use sometimes. Mm-hmm. But instead, if you take that lesson and you take a step back and say, okay, I have to trust, right? Well, if you're going to trust, you need to empower. You empower with knowledge, and you empower with the ability for them to make the choice. And I use an analogy that if I said, let's drive to Riverside, Nolette, and Windsor, there's probably 12 different paths. You get there, but you get there, right? And as you evolve as a manager, you learn not to sit in the passenger seat and tell them where to turn. You just teach them how to drive the car, right? So they feel comfortable. And that's, been, if you really, in my belief, ARM's not, if you really want to keep talented people, you let them own their, we'll call it like their position, but their ability to make decisions and act upon them. But the big thing is you have to deliver the training. So there's nothing worse than, probably for any individual, let's say if you're in customer service and you're at the front of any operation, whether it's a restaurant, retail, and customers are coming in and asking you questions and you just have no clue what they're saying. It's belittling, it's humbling, and it's aggravating. I mean, it probably causes more employee turnover in companies than anything, is not onboarding properly. And I'm not going to tell you we've always executed miraculously through the years at that, but we've learned its value and we constantly try to get better at it. So
I think it shows, just seeing some of the comments on LinkedIn this evening, seeing some of the comments that we've had from some of the staff, some of the members who have been joining the live feed today. I think that shows, right? I think there's a lot of people who want to make this happen, and they want to make the Movati experience happen as well. Lynn, who I know is a member who's joining on our live feed on LinkedIn, also says, thanks for making this interview conversation happen. I mean, Lynn, thank you for watching, first of all. Second of all, this is what the show is about. Chuck and I were talking a little bit in April about, changing the narrative a bit when it comes to what is considered news and what is news, and how do we approach it from a very inclusive lens, and how do we approach it from a positive lens, like Chuck was saying about getmovingagain.ca, asking and advocating to have a seat at the table to say, hey, gyms are essential to folks here in Ontario, and collectively as an industry, we can come together and make this a safe reopening and get people feeling better about themselves and better about themselves mentally as well. One thing I wanted to talk about here too, on the show, and I know we've got so much ground to cover, and we've covered a lot so far, is I wanted to talk about your community connection in another way that you and I sort of got to know each other over the years too. During my days at CKLW, I was very proud to be involved with a number of fantastic organizations here locally. I've rekindled a lot of those relationships over the last couple of years, and one organization for me that has just been absolutely incredible from start to finish is the Amhertsburg Miracle League. And it's an organization that I was proud to broadcast from for when it opened up many moons ago here, just around the corner from our house at the Libro Center. And I talked to some fantastic folks, including Michelle Vigneault. Give shout out to her as well. She's just a lovely woman. And when I got to actually see what the Miracle League was about, and how this really makes a difference for individuals. Chuck, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you're heavily involved in the Miracle League, because it's a great organization, but there's a personal connection there as well for you.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing attention to a great organization. So, I don't know how many years it's been now. I'm getting old. It's been at least, I think, 9 or 10 since it started.
Yeah.
They approached my wife and they asked her, they had team moms, so they wanted her to be the coach for a team. And we agreed to sponsor it. I mean, that was the least. And, at the beginning, I have a daughter, Megan, she plays in the league. She's there she is. Yeah. She's the Masher, I think is her nickname they gave her. But I just, when it first came out, ARMS, I didn't know how, never seen it before. How's this going to react? Are the kids going to love it? Is it going to be doable? And, thankfully to people like Michelle Vigneault, Chuck Bonday, the people, the real heroes behind the scenes doing everything, like making sure it could run, and the idea to move it forward, it did move forward. So the kids show up, and you've been there, ARMS, and I always tell people it's a bit of sport, it's a bit of live entertainment, and it's got a little bit of everything in it, dance, baseball, and the kids get to showcase some of their personalities, and the kids and adults too. So you can't go there and not have a good day. They have so much fun, everyone involved, and we go every week. My daughter looks forward to it when it's on, and nothing but kudos to everybody there. Like, our involvement, although it is small, so I don't want to overshadow those people are amazing, Arms, that you mentioned. So that has been a huge highlight. And I'll give you my own personal take. So my daughter Megan had many years would go to watch her sister swim, play baseball, other events, and she was a cheerleader for her, right?
Sure.
But she never got the chance to be the person being cheered for. So having grandparents come out, having aunts and uncles, having people in the stands cheering her on as she comes to bat or makes a play. You can't help but melt when you see it, Arms. And it happens. Those experiences happen daily. And if anybody has not seen it, I highly encourage, if you have, a Saturday afternoon, to come out when they're back playing ball and sit in the stands and cheer on some athletes who are strictly there for the pure enjoyment and fun of it. And there's no bickering, no fighting, no, it is nothing but pure sportsmanship. So.
Yeah, I before the pandemic hit, this was November 2019, October 2019, November 2019. Michelle had invited my sister Marissa and I, who does some camera work for me on the side for my Carrie and I's business. We were able to cover the closing festivities of the Miracle League, and I remember seeing you and seeing your wife Angela and Megan as well, and just talking to Chuck a little bit about. What this meant to so many people, but then getting to know the moms and dads, getting to talk to some of the players, to some of the sponsors that were there as well. It's such a great feeling to be involved in what was the first, if I'm not mistaken, Miracle League in, I believe, Canada. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but just dating us again, Chuck, 10 years ago, but it was the first. Amhertsburg was the first to bat, pun intended.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, it was an idea, and I believe, that Chuck Bonde went and saw it somewhere, another gentleman from Amhertsburg, and he brought the idea back, and then he talked some organizations into help fundraising to get the field built, and then he put the show together with great people like Michelle and others who tirelessly work, Arms. Like, they show up 7 a.m. and they're leaving around 4, breaking everything down after the games. And they are purely there in the true altruistic, reason, like, because they enjoy. I say this, Arms, like, you've seen it. So I encourage people to go. If you go there and you can't smile after, like, and think the sun's shining, it's a pretty good day, like, then I don't know where your heart is. But
that's right. No, it's a good feeling, right? And it's so encouraging, and I'm proud to say it's in our hometown of in the Berg, right? I think it's just an amazing experience, and I hope to God we can, turn a corner with this pandemic, and the kids can get out playing, the parents can be involved in it, the families can be involved, and then that community vibe comes back to the Libro Center for the Miracle League. A couple minutes left to go here on the show before we dive back into our main topic of getting Ontario moving again. I always like to do this to my guests too. Shout out to your, and you and I have talked about this. Shout out to your wife, right, Angela, for being the rock, right? The lady who certainly is the rock among all things. And I have the utmost respect for my wife, and certainly I know with you and Angela, this is, you guys have seen it all, you've done it all, and you're still going okay.
Yeah, no, a huge shout out to my wife Angela. She carries a behemoth amount of work behind the scenes, caring for my family and making sure they're taken care of. And I'm on the road a lot, not now with the pandemic, but I am normally on the road a lot for work. And she does an incredible work. And as we said, Arms, we work for our family, and that's a huge I mean, it's the whole reason. I think many people get up in the morning and put on the game face to go to work. But I am fortunate to have a lovely wife, Angela, and believe me, if you get out of line, like you can be the CEO at work. Trust me, you go home, you kind of know that whatever that title is just it's your dad and your husband, and you're gonna
Oh yeah.
you're part of the family. So I say that jokingly, but and lovingly. Like we're June 19th, it'll be our anniversary. So
happy anniversary to you guys. That's awesome. And it's happy wife, happy life, and I couldn't agree more with you too. I think people work. You should be working for yourself. You should be working for your family, and you're able to have that balance. I think is so essentially crucial for an overall well-rounded person, because it's life is the sum of what we make it. I'm a firm believer in that as well. A few minutes left to go. Let's talk about the new location here in Windsor. Beautiful. Oh my God! Like I saw photos of it. I drive by often when I'm in Windsor for work at the Humane Society, and I think to myself, I can't wait to get in there. It's just a great facility. You got to be proud to come back to Windsor, right? I mean, not really come back to Windsor, but come back to Windsor, put some roots into Windsor with Movati, right? It's been a while.
Yeah. So after we closed or sold the Windsor location, and we had a cabana in Dougal, was Total Fitness. We still had the Amhertsburg and Kingsville, and we had moved our products out throughout Ontario. Like I said, from Thunder Bay, Ottawa, Brantford, Richmond Hill, Burlington, Mississauga, around many different locations, 17 to be. This spot became available in Windsor, and I haven't mentioned him today, but I have another great partner, Rick Cannell, who's takes care of the construction and the building and materials, and I couldn't ask for a partner to better match me, because that's not my strength, and we were both proud to come home. We had grown the company, but nobody had seen it, right? Like they didn't know. People in Windsor, we had our office downtown. You saw it, but no one really knew how we had grown and what we had built, outside of this area. So bringing it home, there was a lot of pride in our hearts, like Rick and I, to showcase, like what we had built, to show people the great people in our company and the product for them to have it in Windsor as a service, and the response was amazing, even with the pandemic. So, I have nothing but love for the city of Windsor and Essex County. It's my home. It's where I've grown up, and I'm a proud resident.
Well, I just want to thank you again for investing in the community, investing into your workforce, getting people aware of a fantastic organization that has roots here in the city. And again, that website for folks who are watching the stream on the pre-record, or you want to support something that really is so crucial to, I think, a lot of folks' mental health. The fitness club restrictions are not working out. Ontario starts to reopen tomorrow. We're saying, hey, support a safe and responsible reopening plan for Ontario fitness clubs. Movati Athletic, other industry leaders coming to the table saying, hey, you know what? The pandemic has taken a heavy toll on everyone. Health and wellness, both physical and mental, are hurting in Ontario. So we need access to more, not less, physical activity. So fitness clubs are part of the solution and not the problem. And you can sign up and make your voice be heard and hopefully advocate these folks to get a seat at the table. Getmovingagain.ca. My friend, it has been a pleasure and honor to know you. I think you do incredible work, and we're very lucky to have you in the community. And I just want to thank you for spending me some time this evening. I really appreciate it, Chuck.
No, it's my pleasure, Arms. I grew up. I feel like I knew you before I knew you, Arms, because you were on the radio when I was working as a paramedic in the city, and I feel fortunate to have had that ability to know you. Even not, I hadn't met you. I honestly felt like I've known you for at least 20 years, Arms. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do in the community. I don't think that gets highlighted enough. All the fundraising, all the charitable events, all of the work you do behind the scenes or working along with people to highlight their causes and the great work they're doing, I applaud you, because I am not, I get anxiety out in front of camera. So when I applaud all the work you do.
Well, I appreciate it, and I really I believe in, there is a power to good, and I think I joke around with folks all the time. You look at somebody like John Krasinski, right, of The Office. Pandemic hits, he does a YouTube show, Some Good News. He sells it to CBS 6 months later for like $20 million. So there's, people want good news, and I think the onus is on the media to start talking about good news, still having those accountability issues and accountability, quote unquote, journalism, but you can do it in a way that, again, brings people to the table, allows people to have a voice and have that part of the discussion, right? So you can balance out things as well, because I think it is extremely crucial to have that in a voice in a sea of endless media. So I will check in with you again. I'd love to have you back on the show. Hopefully we can talk in the next couple of months. We'll get some good news. We can get the gyms opened again. In the meantime, stay safe, keep up the great work. And Chuck, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Arms. And let's get everybody back to living again.
We thank you so much. That is Chuck Kelly, CEO of Movati Athletic. What a great guy. And Sue, thank you for that. Thank you for watching the show. And Sue says, thank you, Chuck, for your amazing leadership. So we appreciate you joining us on the live feed today. Don't forget, you can download the podcast. It will be up on our website. You can find us more on Anchor FM. That'll be up probably within the next hour. And just a reminder, too, if you are thinking, hey, when's the next episode? Are you guys going to be doing more shows? Or what's going on with the Arms Bumanlag project? Well, we are shooting for one episode a week. I have been contacted by a fantastic organization here in Windsor Essex, some grassroots folks who are doing some amazing stuff. You may remember this from last year. Yeah, it's the Miracle. You remember that? It was huge last year. Well, they're back again, and it's happening on June 27th. Coming up on Tuesday, June 15th at 8 o'clock live here on the Arms Bumanlag Project, we will be talking to the organizers of the June 27th Miracle that is happening before you know it, and we will be doing two shows next week. One Tuesday, and then we got another fantastic guest who's going to join us live on Friday night. Should be a really good show as well. So from all of us here at the Little Heart Studios, my wife Carrie, my son Liam, and I, stay safe, take care of each other. Thank you for watching the show. And remember, always take time to give each other some love and make sure that you treat each other well at the end of the day. We'll see you back on Tuesday night.